So now that you have selected the equipment that you're going to need for your podcast, the thing I typically recommend clients do is go ahead and order it right away. So it's going to take a few days or a week, whatever, to actually get to you. Now, in the between time, what you're going to do is actually some of the hard systems building that you're going to do up front. It's a one-time investment of time, energy, focus, but it's going to last with you throughout the lifetime of your show. That number one thing is going to be writing out the first 10 episodes, 10 title ideas, 10 concepts or bullets, however deep you want to go here. So scripting the first 10 episodes for your show. And this can be as simple as just titling them. Doesn't even need to have extra bullets at first. But the reason that I recommend this exercise is because it's easier for you to think about, all right, what do I want to talk about? And you may have already had some things in mind than it is for you to go, okay, who's my audience, right? Because that question, of course, is core, like who is this for? But it's just a little harder sometimes to answer that up front than to list out the 10 things you're going to talk about. And then you can easily deduce from that, okay, this is the kind of person who would listen to these 10 episodes, right? So write out your 10 titles. This is going to be very useful because focusing on your titles is a very important practice or skill you should develop early on anyways, because it's the only piece on podcast platforms, aside from maybe the first line of the description or your cover art for your show, that people are going to see, right? So they're judging should I listen or not based off literally this title. So make sure that when you're titling these episodes, you do it in a way that would appeal to the person that you have in mind, which leads me to my next question: who is this for? So once you've written out your 10 episode ideas, your 10 titles, now you can begin to think, okay, who's the kind of person that would listen to this? For most people that I talk to, they are making it for themselves, right? So they are the ideal listener, and you kind of then have to break yourself down, right? Like, okay, what are the types of things that I would click on? So don't title something that you personally would never ever click on if you are the ideal target or audience, right? The next target that is pretty common is whoever is providing the service. So for example, if I'm working with a company that is already like a more corporate company, they already have services and products in line, all of their content that they are creating, whether it's podcasts, YouTube clips, LinkedIn, it's all going to funnel in towards those products and services. So if you are doing this to help bring attention to a product or service, then your ideal listener is a little bit figured out already, because who has already bought from you, and maybe that is a start for who the ideal listener is. And the reason we even develop this ideal listener in the first place, you might be wondering, is it worth it to do? It is, in my opinion. It feels like a waste of time, because what it does is it brings your focal point when you're talking down to one person. Instead of 10 people or this theoretical audience, you are focusing on this one real person. Maybe it's somebody that's listened to your show already. Maybe it's somebody you can imagine listening to on the other end. Okay, now you have somebody in mind that you are talking to, right? Which makes the whole episode feel a little bit easier to listen to, a little more relatable, a little bit more personal. Versus when you aren't just talking to one person, you're talking to this big group, you very quickly, if you don't have a lot of experience being on camera, will start to ramble and rant in a way where that is noticeable to the end viewer or listener. So it's very helpful to have a clear idea of some of the traits, personalities, likes, dislikes of who you're actually speaking to, because the way you would present that information is going to be different. The way it would be in person if you're talking to, your boss versus your friend versus a lawyer versus an accountant versus whoever, right? So it allows you to know what the frame is when you go through the exercise of writing the first 10 titles for your podcast episodes, and then being able to start to deduce from that information who is the type of person who's going to be listening to this show. If I was to build that into one person, right? What other podcasts do they consume, right? What do they do in their free time? It's not just age, like, oh, they're 25 to 34 years old. It's not just demographics, it's psychographics you want to think about. And the reason you do this is because content ideas are unlimited when you know exactly who you're talking to. It's way easier to create hitters because there's a specific person, even if it's just one versus 100, that is being served and is enjoying it, and you can kind of guarantee that. And if that one is happening, then that experience can be repeated 10 times, 100 times. It's just knowing that, all right, this is an actual person that I am speaking to, even if it is just myself. Thank you so much for hanging out. I really appreciate you spending the time. If you enjoyed this video, you're definitely going to enjoy some of these. So check out the full version or more clips to help you digest this in an actionable way. And if you want to put this into practice, make sure to check out the podcast launch checklist and a couple other free tools that I have on my website to help you start or grow your podcast. That's going to be at www.podmahal.com. You can check out the links and all that good stuff in the description below. But thanks again for hanging out, and I'll see you on the next one.